Shanice.
Hi, Michelle.
How are you today?
Good.
Are you ready for this episode?
Yes.
This one can get a little heavy, so let's just dive right in.
All right.
All right, this is September, and September is Realtor Safety Month. So let's talk about some
Realtor safety.
realtor safety. How to stay safe, how to be safe.
Some tips.
Some tips, some tricks, and some real life examples of maybe when we felt like we needed to have a different awareness or more awareness or maybe a gut instinct.
Yeah.
All right, let's start it. So why do you think that Realtor Safety Month, why do you think we have a whole month dedicated to realtor safety?
I would say because our profession is high risk, and we are targeted because people look at us and think that, we have a ton of money, we might have a nice car or nice things, and they just automatically assume that we have a lot of money.
I think that's a common misconception just in general. I think people, think, oh, well, they're getting this huge commission check, not really understanding all the back end of how that works, and it's not really that huge when
Right.
it actually gets to us. But what do you think makes this a high-risk profession?
Well, we're constantly meeting with people that we don't know and talking to people that we don't know and going to houses, vacant homes.
That we've never been to before,
Right.
Probably, most likely.
Yeah. In areas we work in the same area normally, but sometimes maybe we weren't on that street or in that neighborhood per se. So,
Do you think that you have a different perspective on realtor safety now than you did when you started?
yeah. I think I was a little bit more carefree, which is not good.
When you started?
Yeah.
Well, I think that as new realtors, we do a lot of things that we probably wouldn't do now. Like, we take on clients just to get a client, just to get a sale, and we probably are selling homes not at the top of the price range, because nobody starts out at the top.
Right. Might be working like investment properties or
Yeah.
under 100,000.
Right, which is very common.
Yeah.
Okay, so high risk profession. There's a misconception that everybody who has a license and is out there working is wealthy. What kind of tips have you picked up along the way that contribute to you feeling like you are aware and that you are being an active participant in your safety
Right.
and the safety of your clients too?
Yeah. I have a ton that I've picked up along the way that I never really thought of. A big one that I know that a lot of realtors, I say it to them. I don't park in the driveway. I park on the street and I make it seem like, you can park in the driveway because I don't ever want to get blocked in. And I learned, somebody at my last brokerage told me that early on, and that stuck with me. And now I'm just really paranoid. Even if I know the person and I am friends with them, I don't park in the driveway because what if something happens and we need to get out of that house? I can't get out. So,
Okay, that's a good one.
yeah.
I have a habit of, my daughter makes fun of me all the time for this, but I have a habit of backing into a space so that I am always forward facing
I like that
for
too.
where I need to be or where I need to go.
Yeah.
And I'll share with you a little bit later a time when that came in handy.
Yeah. I do that too. Just in life in general, wherever I go.
So our next tip is knowing your surroundings, be aware. How do you do that? When does that start?
I think when you're driving up to on the street up to the house, just looking around, because if something does change, you want to know. So if I see people walking down the street, or sometimes the neighbors will come outside, but you don't know if they're the neighbors or not. I do speak, I say, hey, and, just so they know that I know that they're there.
Oh, 100%. I've shown in some risky areas, some
Yeah.
higher crime areas in our area. And the same thing. If I am walking down the street, my eyes are always up, and I say hello to everybody because for that very same reason. I want them to know that I know they're there,
Right.
I want them to know that I see them too.
Right. My eyes, like you said, are always up. My doors are always locked. I'm scanning everything just because you just don't know. And also, I like to stay in my car until my client gets there. Because there's no reason to get out. I know, like, on HGTV, it looks like, oh, we go in, we turn the lights on, we're inside waiting for them, and we open the door up, but that is so unsafe to be in the house by yourself.
I have to admit, I have done that before. It depends on the client. Yeah, I know there should be a standard, but I do. I have had certain situations with certain homes with certain clients where
Yeah.
I may have done that. Obviously,
Yeah.
for an open house, I'm gonna go in before, get it prepped. But I hear you. That's just a regular run-of-the-mill everyday showing. Probably not the best idea.
Practice. And sometimes I even get the key out of the lockbox because you have to have your back turned. And even clients that I know, I don't like when they're behind me because, we're ruffling with sometimes the Bluetooth isn't working. Sometimes the lockbox isn't opening right away. And I'm always like skids. Like, scared.
So, will you go ahead and unlock the door and then go get back in your car?
No, I take the key. I mean, like, if it's a case by case thing because what if there's back to back showings? If there isn't back to back showings, I'll take it with me. If I'm there, a couple minutes early and I'm waiting for them. But if it's back to back showings, normally it's not supposed to be a trade off. I normally make the agent put it back in the lockbox just because I don't like to be put in that situation whenever I'm done with a showing and they're trying to have me pass off the key.
Have you ever had a situation where you had the key? You know what I'm going to say because you're laughing.
Know.
And you complete the showing and you go home and realize you still have the key.
No, but I have turned the air on at an open house and left it on and it was a vacant house and had to go back and turn it off.
That's the worst when you have to go back.
Yeah.
You think you're done for the evening and you're not.
So you're one of those realtors that took the key?
No, but I have had it happen to me where I was the next agent to go show the home and there was no key.
Oh yeah, I had that too. I had an agent put through showing time. Whoever took
Yes.
the key, please take it back. We are calling your broker. I was like, oh my God. But this is when the market was super crazy a couple months ago. So I
Yeah.
think they did it on purpose.
Yeah, it actually happened to one of our realtors in our group.
Oh God.
It was one of her very first showings, and she was so excited to have a showing.
I already know who this is.
Huh?
I know who it is.
You do know who it is?
I feel like I do. God love her.
I'm not going to say it on air. Okay, so we're always aware, we're always observant, staying in our car until the client gets there, getting the key first, always backing in to a parking spot. What else? What else is in your arsenal of staying safe?
Your clients, stay behind your clients.
This is
Do
a big
not
one.
lead them into a room. It's natural to do that, but no, just say the kitchen is this way and open up so they start walking forward. Because you don't know. You don't want to get locked in a room.
I've been locked in a garage before.
Yeah,
By
right.
another agent, but still.
Yeah, so I'm never going down the stairs first.
Nope.
I'm never going up the stairs.
I don't go down the stairs first because for a couple of reasons. One,
What, are you going to trip?
Well, I have that bad knee, and I'm afraid I'm going to fall down the stairs in front of them. And I really should be afraid that I'm going to fall down the stairs behind them and take them all out with me.
Right. That's funny.
But I do know agents who don't show basements.
Yeah.
They let the clients go and check it out, and they don't show basements.
I mean, sometimes I do let them. Sometimes I'm like, you guys got it, because that gives them a chance to talk. Like if it's
Yeah.
two people, because sometimes they don't want you to be all up on them.
Right.
But that's a good tip. I might not be showing basements anymore.
In some homes, I don't. I mean,
it's not a walkout.
right, right. So, okay, the next one is you show properties before dark, but we do live in the Eastern time zone, and when it's daylight savings time or not daylight savings time, I don't remember which it is, but in the winter months,
See, we're
It's-
different on this.
it's dark so early.
I still won't do it.
Really?
Nope. I'm good.
Listen, I gotta eat, so I need to make some money in the winter.
I do. I did just fine last year not showing after dark. I did just because my clients didn't want to see the home in the dark either. They were
No,
like,
and I get that. I get that. It's not ideal. But if they work all day and the only time they have is after 5 o'clock,
see, I don't know. I got lucky because a lot of my clients, they just didn't want to see it in the dark either. They were like, oh no. And I also work with a lot of like single mothers and stuff like that. So they understand that. But yeah, I won't do it.
okay. So sharing the location with spouse, children, family, or close friends. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, on Apple, they have Find My Friends. So, actually, me and another realtor in our market, she was like, put me on Find Your Friends. And I'm like, why? And she's like, so I know where you're at. And I was like, okay. And I thought that was kind of cool because if anyone's going to understand, she is. But then I started doing it like with my mom or my boyfriend doesn't live local all the time. So only when he's here, like I'll just send him my location because you can do that on Apple. But I think it's important to let people know where you're at.
I agree. If I am meeting a client for the first time or I'm going someplace I've never been before, I always tell Mike, I have a showing at this time. This is where I'm going. And I mean, he and I talk, I will say that we're great communicators. So he almost always knows where I am, what I'm doing. And
Right.
I don't feel like that's an invasion at all.
No.
I feel like, he wants to know. He wants to know, especially if we have been talking about a certain client scenario. I mean, we work in the same space.
Yeah.
We share an office. So if there's a certain client scenario that I'm just a little iffy on,
Yeah.
he will pick up on that and be like, I want to know when you're on your way home, just let me know you're okay.
Yeah. No, same thing with Lance.
But we've also got a really cool tool on showing time where you can start your showing and so I think it's on Supra and Sentry Key too.
Sentry Lock is they have a like mark yourself safe feature.
So I think Supra and Showing Time have like one of them has a beacon and one of them
What's a beacon for people that might not know?
I've never used it before. I think it's just to kind of like make your location known to the people that are in your contacts, like whoever it is that you designate to receive that.
Oh, okay. So it's like Sentry Lock.
And it's the same thing as like Showing Time. Yeah, same thing. Now I don't know how many people actually use that feature, but it's a great option, especially if you're going into a situation that you're not 100% sure about. And we're never 100% sure, but I do feel like we all get kind of a gut instinct.
Like
and we should pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that a quick story. My last broker told me, because I used to do a lot of open houses, and open houses are really hard because you don't know who's coming.
Right.
Like showings. So he told me, if you are in a house and you feel uncomfortable, you leave. He's like, I don't care. I don't care what fines we get. He's like, just leave. And that always stuck with me. like even with showings, like if I feel uncomfortable, like I will go outside.
So I was always taught when I did an open house that you get there early and you open up all of the outside doors so that you always have a path to exit
Right.
if
Yeah.
you need it. But in the back of my mind, as I'm sitting at an open house, I'm thinking, well, what if someone comes through the basement door
Exactly.
and they're hiding in a closet? Let's just like let my imagination go.
No, I'm
and they're
thinking that
hiding in
too.
a closet, and then you walk downstairs to do something, and they jump out and grab you.
Right. And I'm like the jumpiest, scariest person in houses. Like my clients, they crack up because I can open a closet and I'll jump. Like that's just how I am. I'm just always like on guard.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because of just the being aware. Like if something was in there, I'd be ready.
Yeah. Ugh. And when you're doing an open house and you've got a lot of traffic, this is why I think doing an open house with somebody is a
Yeah.
good idea sometimes if it's a scenario where you're going to get a lot of foot traffic, because that way you can kind of manage the flow of people and kind
Yeah.
of keep your eyes on where everybody is.
It gets crazy whenever you have a lot of people coming in, because I've had open houses that I have lost control of because there were so many people. And it was like, you know what? I'm just going to stand in one spot. And like, you can't follow everybody or be with everybody.
Well, that's why it's so important too that everybody signs into an open house. And I know I think it was last year or right before the stay-at-home order, there was a realtor in Virginia who was doing an open house, and the guy signed in, and he almost beat her to death.
Are you serious?
But they knew who he was, and
Is she okay?
I think she did recover. But
Oh my God.
yeah, listen, it's not necessarily fun to talk about, but it is the
It
reality
happens,
of our
yeah.
business. It
Yeah.
does happen. So you have to be aware of it. You do have to talk about it. Yeah. And the other thing I was taught was when you leave an open house, you obviously you're locking up the house from top to bottom. You have to make sure everybody's out before you do that.
Yeah. Right.
Because you
start
don't want to
locking up
get trapped in a home with
with somebody.
somebody who doesn't have good intentions.
Right. Yeah. Also, I don't take any personal belongings in.
I don't
I
either.
see a lot of realtors in other markets. They're like wearing their Louis Vuitton bag, like into their Gucci bag into the showing. Like I'm not taking anything. I'm taking my phone and my keys. That's it.
That's it. I'm with you 100%.
And I don't even. Yeah, I don't. Even if my purse is like in the car, like it's like hidden. You know what I mean? Like it's not just sitting out.
Well, and we're also taught that you don't put your purse in the trunk at the property.
No. Why would you get out and show them, like, this is what I have, and then put it in the trunk?
Right.
It either needs to be there already, or you need to just put it in the back seat and the floor if you have, like, tints on the back windows.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. Never tell your client that the property is vacant before showing it.
Agreed.
That's just asking, like, if they were looking to do something, that's just asking for trouble. I mean, they might already know, but
Because
like,
of the pictures.
yeah, but don't put that out there. 'Cause,
Yeah, you don't advertise it.
yeah, sometimes they'll say, "Are they living in there?" And I'll just say, "Yeah." You never know.
You don't. That's true. Okay. Look your client. So I'm reading the tips, and I really need to put my glasses on because I thought it said lock your client up.
Lock your client up. Yeah.
It says look your client up if you've never met them before. Also request they send you their ID. So I actually, when I was in the dating world, if I was meeting somebody for the first time, I would do that. I would,
do a background check. But I always get IDs.
no, I would ask for a picture of their driver's license, or I would take a picture of their license plate and send it to my person, whoever that was.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just I think that's a basic female safety tip.
Yeah. Always look them up on all Facebook, Instagram, Google, and then I even have the
Because when you're stalking, Your
Yeah.
stalking skills
Everything.
come in handy.
Right. I'm looking at everything.
Yeah.
And I even pay for whatever the search is, the background check search. I pay for that too.
Do you?
Yeah. I mean, like, if it's somebody I never met, like, they just call you off of a sign or something.
Yeah.
Or, like, if it's a number, I get a lot of people that call me from out of town that are, like, moving here.
I do a lot
like,
of reloads too.
Like, relocating, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Those are always, like, red flags to me, people that I need to just double, triple, quadruple check.
My favorite is when my clients look up, like if my buyers look up the sellers or my sellers look up the buyers.
Oh, my God, I hate when they do that.
And then they tell me all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah. They're like, they're doing this, they're doing that.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just like, stop.
I know. I'm like, okay, this is good to know about you.
Right.
What did you find about me?
Right.
Tell me. Tell me all the tea.
God.
Okay. So I think that most local associations have a focus on realtor safety and realtor safety resources during Realtor Safety Month.
And all year.
But yeah, I mean, they should have resources all year long as well as your state association, and then NAR also has some resources. I love that you do this. You do this all the time. You never post in real time on social media.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Never. That is just, like,
That's so
why
smart.
would you do that? Because I do want to post the location of where it's at, but I normally post it, like, 2 hours later. Or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't post it. Now, people might say not in real time and then post it 10 minutes later. What if you have to go back there really quick? So I always wait like an hour, 2 hours.
Yeah, I think that is a smart tip, period, whether it's real estate related or not. And of course, we want to share things on social media because so much of our business
It's from social media.
is from social media. And there are so many people who, especially post-COVID, are getting to know you on social media.
And that's not just for real estate. Even if
No.
I'm out, I'm on vacation, I post the location, I never post in real time. For anything, just because it's you never know. And I
Right.
also never post like if I'm at my house or something, like sometimes you might record like at your house or do things like I just don't like to post like my street or
You don't like to give it up. That's
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, any of that.
So another tip is to take self-defense classes.
Yeah, I want to do that.
I'll do it with you. It'll
Yeah,
be fun.
yeah, we should.
We can be partners and spar.
Yes, I really need to do that because some of the tips, I mean, you get the tips. I've gotten tips over the course of 10 years, but I don't remember them because I don't actively like practice them.
Right. I mean, they don't all come into play every single time you go
Yeah.
out to show a home. So let me ask you this. Have you ever taken someone else with you on a showing?
Yeah, so in the very beginning, I used to, like, I was friends with a couple male realtors, and I would just call them, like, on the spot, like, hey, can you do this? Can you go with me? Can you meet me here? Or can you just do this showing for me? Because it's just, as a female, like, we're targeted. And sometimes now I'll bring, like, Lance with me, or I used to do showings with, like, other agents, too.
Yeah. All of the above. Mike has gone with me on many showings with,
Lance
to be
has gone
honest.
inside with me.
Yeah,
And acted like he was a real estate agent. Like, he didn't say anything, but we acted like we were a team.
Mike has gone with me and just kind of been there. If it was somebody that I hadn't met, and typically that's a man.
Right. I mean, but you gotta be, I'm wary of females, too.
True. I'm not saying that it's exclusive
Right.
to men. Not at all. Especially, the reality is that I think one of the most infamous realtor stories out there is Beverly Carter, and she was, for those of you who don't look it up, or that don't know, we'll link the information in the show notes, but she was a seasoned agent. She was not a new agent. She had a standard, she had a protocol, she had a gut instinct that told her something was wrong, and she talked herself out of it. And this was a couple that lured her to a home,
Right.
and the wife unexpectedly couldn't make it, and she was she was killed.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could be anybody. It can be anybody. And I'm going to tell you a story. I had one situation where it was a duty call. So it was one of those, desk duty calls.
I never had any of those.
And I was a brand new agent.
You guys had to sit at the desk?
No, it got transferred to me.
Oh.
And he wanted to see this, like, nicely priced home.
Yeah.
So, in my mind, and this is a lesson, you should not have a bias based on price.
Right.
So, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll do the buyer's consult. At the showing, I took all of the paperwork with me. And this was early enough in my career that I still thought that I was going to show homes in heels.
Yeah. I do
And-
sometimes.
Yeah. So, I did all the things wrong. I did everything wrong. I parked in the driveway, and it was tight, and it was down a slope, and there was a cliff.
Where was this at?
On the back side. I'll tell you later. I went into the home. I opened it up. I turned all the lights on. Did all the
Everything you're
things
not
wrong.
supposed to
All
do.
the things wrong.
I would have
and-
beat your butt.
And this client to be shows up. It was the first time in my life, not just in my real estate career. It was the first time in my life that I looked at him and thought I could be in trouble because he can take me. Like I could not overpower him. He just had a presence that I knew that if he decided to, I was in trouble.
Yeah.
So he walked into the front door, and it was an immediate instinct. I slipped out of my shoes. I did not go before him, and every door we went through, I left unlocked. As I got to know him as a client, my instincts were spot on because he had been shot 3 times. He was in a gang in Philly. He had left that life, but he, the bottom line is if he had decided to do something untoward, I would have been in trouble.
Right.
So I don't do those things anymore. And
Yeah.
that was a big lesson. And, the one thing that we don't have on here, and this is a very personal decision, but I do know realtors that have concealed carries.
Yeah, that's one thing that I don't have on here because I don't have it, but I would like to get that or have something, whether it's a knife. I know some realtors have knives, mace, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on your state, and it depends on your state regulatory rules.
Right.
We are allowed to carry. I do have my concealed carry.
Do you bring it with you?
I am going to refuse to answer that on the grounds that it doesn't make any sense that I have a concealed carry, and I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I'm not opposed to it,
Yeah.
and I feel confident. It's
Yeah.
not a situation where I feel like, I grew up shooting.
Yeah.
My dad taught me to shoot. So, yeah, but I don't. Probably shouldn't say that on air. That doesn't mean that I won't in the future.
Right.
Let me
She's
say
going
that.
to.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Mike bought me a handgun, a compact, so that I could carry. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so that's one of the things that's not on here. I did have another situation where, we get online leads sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was this guy who was interested in he was an investor, and he was interested in doing, like rehabbing abandoned properties. Mm-hmm. And he I immediately got kind of a little weird vibe. So I really wanted to meet him for coffee
Right.
and have a consultation.
Yeah.
And he kept,
That's another tip.
yes.
Have meet them at your office if you have one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not home office, but your
Right. Not
brokerage.
the home office.
Or meet them in a public place to do a consult.
Yeah. So I had wanted to meet him for a consult, and something happened and it was canceled. I believe that he got behind at work, and I had other client appointments, so I couldn't make it. But he was really persistent about rescheduling that. Maybe lunch, maybe dinner, not appropriate.
Right.
And he kept sending me these addresses for these properties that were not for sale, but they were abandoned. And he was like, "Well, could we just meet at the property?" No, we cannot.
It's not even for sale.
It's not, one, it's not for sale, and two, I'm not going to meet you at, this remote location. And I did talk to Mike about it because, sometimes I think, okay, am I being overly critical? Am I overthinking this? Am I overreacting?
Mm-hmm.
And he is my voice of reason sometimes.
Yeah.
And he said, maybe he just, is anxious to get working on the project, or, I don't know, whatever. But he did agree that if I went, he was going with me.
Right.
And I do always tell people, you have to disclose that, especially if you are discussing, confidential information, personal information.
Yeah.
I do always disclose I'm going to have somebody with me.
Right.
If I have somebody with me. But
Yeah.
those were my only two instances where I really, had a gut reaction. And, that client, I actually ended up having to block him.
Wow.
Not client, because he was never a client.
Right.
That
Customer.
lead.
That we call them.
Yeah.
They're customers.
That creeper. That's what we call them. He really got very persistent. He started messaging me on Facebook.
Oh my goodness.
And he did not have a profile picture on Facebook.
Red flag.
Yeah, big red flag. So, what about you? Have you had experiences where you were less than thrilled about the potential for the client?
Yeah, I've had a couple situations, like 2 situations that were actually scary, and then one that I just had like a really bad feeling. I work with a lot of investors, and this investor, we were looking at like a property, I think it was like under $50,000, and I go to open the door, and as I'm opening the door, I see, and the property's vacant, and I talk to the realtor, there's not supposed to be anybody there. I see somebody jump up
Oh.
and run out the back door. And I literally, as that person's jumping up, I'm jumping back, falling, and my client was a male, falling back into him, and he actually jumps in front of me. We split the door frame because the way that I fell back into the door, I was so scared. He ran out the back door, and then my client's like, I'm going to still go in. So he goes in, and the guy's just standing outside. So we call them squatters. Like, he's not supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But what if he had a weapon or something, and he was alarmed, and he just, used
reacted. He reacted, right?
Yeah. So I was shooken up. I was just like, what just happened? And that was so scary, because what would I have done?
Right.
I mean, he literally had a pallet on the floor and snacks and all this. He was not supposed to be there.
Well, thankfully nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully he didn't do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And he waited outside till the showing was done. And then I called the agent because I was like, well, what do I do? Because I don't want to let him back in, because he's not supposed to be in here.
Right.
And so I just locked up. And he was fine with that. He knew he wasn't supposed to be in there.
Wow.
Yeah. So that happened. And then I was with a female client, and the home was not vacant. It was lived in. But there was roommates. So one of the roommates got the alert that there was a showing, and the other one didn't. So when we showed the house, or I was going through, all of a sudden I hear somebody running down the steps. And the steps were in the middle of the house. And I hear somebody running down, and my client has her son with her. So she's looking at me, like, panic in her eyes, like, because we didn't think anybody was home. And I'm like, I froze because I didn't know what to do. I told her, like, I was like, you go back here, because there was like a laundry room. I was like, you go back there, and then we see the guy come around, and it was just the guy that lived there, but still, like, I was shooken up from that too. I was like, he wasn't supposed to be here. And she's been looking for the last, like, 2 years, ever since I started, and she still brings that up.
Oh,
And she's
boy.
still always like, are you sure no one's here?
Aw.
Like, because of what happened. And then she had her son with her. So,
Right.
like, she was like, what would I have done? And it was scary. I mean, you hear somebody running down the steps, like, you don't know what to do. And then another thing, he didn't know there was a showing. So he even said, like, I came down to see who was down here. What if he, you know.
Right. What if he thought it was an intruder?
Right. And, like, the way the house was set up, it was an older house, so there was a lot of walls up. It wasn't like an open concept where you could see. So that was another scary part. But yeah, those two situations. And then I had a client that actually just gave me weird vibes inside the house, and I just exited. I just said, I'm gonna go look at the yard. and I let them just look at the house. And they ended up being okay, but they just were giving me weird vibes.
You got to pay attention to those vibes, and you have to pay attention to your gut.
Yeah.
Well, of course you can find all of these tips on multiple websites. You can find them on the Pennsylvania Association Realtor page if you're from Pennsylvania, or your state association page. You can also find lots and lots of tips and resources on the National Association of Realtor page, and we will link PAR and NAR links in the show notes. I will say that one thing we did not touch on was safe jewelry. There, I will put some links in our show notes for that too. There are pieces of jewelry, companies that sell pieces of jewelry or keychains that have tracking, they have GPS in them.
Right.
So those are really
They're
nice
good things to
items,
have, yeah.
and they're fashionable.
Right.
They're fashionable. So that's something to look into as well. I mean, there are a lot of ways that you can protect yourself, that you can take the right precautions. And I will say that while the majority, according to the National Association of Realtors, the majority of realtors, by 72%, said they'd not experienced a situation that made them fear for their safety or their personal information. So,
Really?
yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And only 4% of realtors reported they had been the victim of a crime while working. So,
Well, that's good that that's low.
yeah, it is. Nearly 40% of realtors reported that they had met a new client at a secluded property and or location, and 51% said they had hosted an open house alone. So those are not statistics that I would, think. I would think that
Pretty
would
much
be lower.
everyone hosts a open house alone. So that sounds about right.
Okay. But it also says that 38% report in the survey that they had taken a self-defense class. So we need to get on that.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely should.
And
It's so
nearly
funny.
half, so to your point about the knife or the concealed carry, nearly half of realtors said they carry a self-defense weapon. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
The number one is pepper spray,
Mm-hmm.
followed by a firearm and a pocket knife. And then more than half of realtors, 58%, said they use a smartphone app to share their location and or other alerts in the event of a situation. So apps like Find My iPhone, SentryKey, Real Estate app, and GPS Phone Track for Android were the most popular.
Yeah, that's good.
So, while we are a high risk profession, we do have a lot of tools available and accessible to us to
Yeah.
keep not just us safe, but to your point with your story about the client, keeping the client safe too.
Yeah, and I think that asking a lot of questions is okay. you know, qualifying that person too before you meet them. And yeah, just doing your research.
Do your research. Do your research. And, you know, make sure that you are checking out clients that you haven't had a relationship with or haven't had a meeting with, because predators are very adept and skilled at deceiving you.
Yeah. And don't just be so quick to just go show a house.
And I know that's hard for new realtors to hear because
Yeah.
you're so hungry for business.
Yeah.
But
it's definitely hard.
But, you know, take precautions and be safe, guys.
All right.
All right, guys, until next time, this has been Our Hustle, Our Way.
Bye.
Bye.